So this is Coach Sess, and you are listening to Words with the Mad Coach. So quickly, I want to do a recap very quickly on last night's UFC. So I'm not going to talk about the entire event. We can talk about that during the week. But let's get to some highlights. So we saw Jon Jones return, and we saw Jon Jones recapture his light heavyweight title. Let me know what your thoughts are. I thought it was a good event. I thought Jon Jones did an outstanding job. But I will say this. I am not totally convinced about Jon Jones and this nice guy streak that he was showing last night. I think you have to give it time just based on his track record. And I'm going to leave that right there.
And I've been expecting more out of myself, holding myself to a higher standard. And I feel like it showed tonight.
Very classy address towards Daniel afterwards. I wonder, was that spontaneous or was it something that's been weighing heavy on you that you wanted to get out there? I mean, obviously, pre-fight build-up isn't exactly the time to do that, but right. Was that something that just came to you all of a sudden, or had you wanted to get that out there?
Well, I've always felt that way about Daniel. I've always felt like he's a pretty classy guy. Guy to be respected. Stand-up champion, model champion.
So it didn't go my guy's way. I was rooting for Damian Maia. Anybody in Team Rock Gym knows I've been rooting for Maia for quite some time. So it goes to Woodley. Hats off to Woodley, regardless of the decision, how it looked. But Dana White has some choice words, and to some degree, I agree with him.
Co-main event, we got to talk about it. Tyron Woodley defeats Damian Maia in a 5-round fight. You didn't look particularly happy with it. We know that the fans were not particularly happy with it. What were your thoughts on the co-main event?
What was there to be happy with? It broke the record for the least punches thrown ever in a title fight. I think it was 130, was the worst fight ever, apparently. This was 60. So, I mean, the numbers speak for itself, and it was just horrible.
Is there any explanation behind it as far as Maia's a tricky guy, you don't want to take risks? Does that excuse fly?
You know, it's hilarious. I swear to God, I'm not even... When we were driving over here in the car, I said that that's the way that fight was going to go. You know, it doesn't surprise me, but to actually have to sit there and watch it for 5 rounds, you know, it's not fun. Watching the people boo and do the wave and, you know, chant "this fight sucks," and, you know, it's never fun.
The lights on the phones were coming out in the crowd. That was kind of cool, though.
Yeah, it's a first. I've never seen that either. You know, when you start doing stuff that you do at a baseball game, you know the fight's bad.
So Tyron, after a performance like that, you know, you had said earlier this week, George St. Pierre could be next. That's a fight, obviously, he wants. Does this performance have any impact on the chances of him fighting St. Pierre?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm probably not going to do it now. Yeah. There you go, breaking news.
So what does that mean for St. Pierre then?
It means, I'll tell you what it means. It means really, really good things for Michael Bisping. Because I know that if I do Michael Bisping versus GSP, Michael Bisping will fight. Michael Bisping will fight.
The thing about GSP and Bisping, I don't know if that fight is star-studded enough. I think a fight like that, if you're going to do it, it has to be done in England, where Bisping is from, or it has to be in Canada. And with St. Pierre being the attraction, it'll probably be Canada. Those markets do well for the UFC. So we shall see. I think if Bisping comes out, he's going to come out like Daniel Cormier did against Jones, trying to bring it based on, hey, ring rust, time off, blah, 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 and trying to establish the mindset of the fight, the psychology of the fight. And it might be his undoing if he does so, just because St. Pierre's takedown game is at another level, and his fight IQ in general is just at another level. We saw Cyborg. We saw her pick up the 145 title, and now that she is the champion, there's some conversation about her possibly taking on Holm in the next couple of events, and that should be a good fight. If they put that fight on the same card as Jones-Lesnar. So we know that Jones called out Lesnar after the fight. If they put those two fights together, that might be a very attractive card to be on.
How about you fighting Holly Holmes? Could that happen?
I can fight Holly Holm. She's good challenger for me. She's like boxing, from boxing. I think good match, and I don't think she ducked me because punch. I think she's accepted this fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee Mike Beltran has called a stop to this contest at 1 minute, 56 seconds of round number 3. Declaring the winner by TKO, and now the new undisputed UFC featherweight champion of the world, Chris Cyborg.
In other mixed martial arts news, make sure you go and check out my 5 factors as far as how they're selling you the McGregor-Mayweather fight. Part 1, I talk about race, and then I'm moving on to pay-per-view numbers, our fascination with mixed combat, and I just put out the last one yesterday, dealing with lack of awareness. They're really trying to get you on what you don't know in terms of mixed martial artists and boxers, and how they really just jump back and forth between both arenas. Maybe not at the scale of a Mayweather, but it's very common now, for at least for the last 10 years at least. And we're going to talk about some, not today, but we're going to talk about some local events coming up. So in August in South Carolina, I know we have Warfare down in South Carolina. Team Rock's own Damon Blackshear is facing Keith Rockstar Richardson in the main event, and Charleston Poole is taking on the new acquisition of Ace Hill. And I don't know if you guys remember back in January when I put out a list of all the new coaches who I thought were going to make a name or make a statement for themselves, and on that list I had Anthony Wright and Nick Grady. Well, they're really, taking it to heart, and they're testing themselves. Nick and Anthony are getting Damon ready for this 25-minute war with Keith, and they're also preparing Ace Hill not for one, but 2 title fights. So he has another show 3 weeks after the Warfare show in September. He'll be fighting on Pro Liam, I think it's called, in South Carolina as well. Also in August, we have Battle in the South. And so I'll be working with Todd Monroe as he kind of debuts under his new name. So Todd is taking over the duties in Greensboro as one of the head coaches, and I'm going to be the other head coach. So I'm trying to find time to get out there at a minimum of 1 day a week, but I like to try to make it twice a week. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that with Matrix MMA and how that came to be. But that's Battle in the South, August 26th in Wilmington, North Carolina. Then in September, Chris Connor is at it again. Next Level Fight Club. And on that card, I hope to have Marcus Daniels potentially taking on Lawrence Dennis. And another guy who I've been working with off and on, just I'm friends with his dad, so I have access to him regardless of what gym he's at. Josh Austin, who's a 2-0 amateur. He's we've been using him, bringing into our camp to help my main man James Quigg get ready for his fight in September 15th, I believe, is in Ring of Combat in New Jersey. And James is going to be fighting 7-0 Alex Kirchhoff. I'll be letting you know more about that during the week, and keeping you guys informed. But let me know how you feel about the UFC last night and the direction the UFC is headed, and what you think about the John Jones taking on Brock Lesnar fight and what it means for the sport. I'm Coach Sess, and you've had words with the Mad Coach.
John Jones with
Brock Lesnar. If you want to know what it feels like to get your ass kicked by a guy who weighs 40 pounds less than you, meet me in the octagon.